Hello and welcome. Welcome to my channel, Lana the Educator, your go-to destination for all things education related. I am Lana the Educator. Whether you're a student striving for success, a dedicated teacher shaping young minds, a paraprofessional making a difference, or an administrator leading the way, this is your place for inspiration and insights and invaluable resources. On this channel, I hope for you to explore with me the latest educational trends, tackle pressing issues facing the education sector, and share stories of triumph and innovation from classrooms anywhere around the globe. Today's topic is onboarding. Specifically, how do we onboard ourselves? When we talk about onboarding, we are really referring to this process of integrating new employees into an organization in order to prepare them to become a productive member of the team or the institution. However, for many teachers in the Caribbean, onboarding is not usually something that is done in a formalized manner. Many times, especially if you come in at the midterm, for example, you are just thrown into the deep end because everybody is busy with their own classes. So onboarding yourself really falls on you. And it is a completely, overwhelming experience sometimes, especially if you are new to the profession or new to your job. But what if you're an experienced teacher? What if you are an experienced employee? It can still be an overwhelming experience in itself. And it becomes very awkward, an awkward experience and an awkward feeling. But at the same time, it's very exciting, and daunting. First, because you've been through onboarding before, especially if you are not a new teacher, you're a seasoned employee. But also, it's awkward and overwhelming a bit because you have to adapt to a new organizational culture. And this for me is where the challenge of onboarding really lies. So even if you are experienced, you really have to start all over and learning the culture of this new place that you have found yourself, and including the new expectations of maybe your new role in this institution that you found yourself. So this was me for the last few weeks because I've had to navigate the onboarding process a bit, and it just made me acutely aware of how important the process will be in getting me ready and in setting me up for long-term success. Integrating new employees into the organization and preparing them to become productive members should really be a systematic approach. And it is usually conducted by employers or managers, which really helps new hires to acquire knowledge, skills, and behaviors necessary for their success in their new roles. But in the education system, this might not be a formalized process. In my recent experience, there seems to have been attempts at an onboarding process, but I could feel it tapering off a bit and fizzling out. And I was sympathetic and understanding. Everyone was genuinely busy because I did not join at a usual time in the term. And there were attempts here and there to help me adjust, but I quickly realized that I would really have to help myself out a bit. So I'm going to share with you how I onboarded myself and maybe help you onboard yourself in any new institution that you may find yourself. So for one, onboarding starts way before you think. Your personal onboarding starts with you thoroughly researching the institution. So your first step in onboarding yourself, and what I did was research the place that I knew I wanted to be, in this case, a new institution. And that meant researching their vision and their mission, and especially their values. It's also a good idea to review your job description, especially if you are moving into a new role. Many teachers, I mean, if you're experienced, you have decades of experience, you may find yourself onboarding again, not because obviously you are new to teaching, but you may have migrated and started in a completely new country, a new culture, a new type of school, or if you haven't migrated, you may be moving to a new institution in a new role. So this may mean you have found yourself in an administrative role, a dean, or head of department, vice principal, principal. And of course, you bring your own set of skills, but you would still need a bit to understand and adapt to the institution's culture. Or in some cases, you may have transferred to a new institution or a new school, and then you have to engage in the onboarding process. So it's also good to review your job description. So in the onboarding, it's easy for you to follow some of the steps that I will be covering in a bit. So this is like something you should do before deciding exactly where you want to work. Once you start in your new job, it's important, I think, in the onboarding process to talk to the employees, to really understand what the organization stands for, but also observe the company culture by participating in meetings or in their clubs, their gatherings, interacting with the colleagues, understanding how decisions are made, So the second step in onboarding is really learning the organization's culture. You pay attention to the communication styles and the collaboration norms. Now, I am forewarning that not all companies' culture will be positive or may suit your style, but it is still important for you to observe how things are done there and pay attention to their values. This can take a while for sure, but it is good advice to go in at least knowing that you want to be looking at the company's culture. Reach out to your manager as well, or your head of department or supervisor, and take the initiative and introduce yourself. Some of you, depending on your personality, may say, oh, this might make me seem pushy and all of that. It's a simple introduction, because as I said, the teaching environment, the staff room, everything is a busy environment once you're in the middle of the school's term. But even if you can't do it in just a casual setting, at least in the department meetings, hopefully your manager or your head will be able to, help you to get involved in that introducing yourself process, right? So you want to take that time to express your enthusiasm for joining the team and inquiring about the priorities or tasks that you should be focusing on. And when you take that initiative to introduce yourself to your colleagues and to your heads, both within your department and across other departments as well, I just want to reiterate that. So you also want to be taking the time to look at introducing yourself to those in different departments, which will help you to build relationships and to integrate into the organization more smoothly and establish a network of support. So your next step should really be building your network. Don't be afraid to ask lots of questions to accelerate your learning curve. I have been asking a lot of questions because I find that it helps me get through, learning about the organization culture and connecting with just colleagues and the people working there. So ask questions because that's going to accelerate your learning curve. It means that also you have to be open to feedback from colleagues, from the people you are seeking feedback from, and actively seeking feedback just on, your performance and areas for improvement, even what your roles and responsibilities might be in terms of clarifying what that means can help you in the onboarding process, right? It helps in your continuous growth and development. Take notes if you need to, take mental notes if you need to, take actual notes if you need to. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. And Also, very important for you to familiarize yourself with the tools and systems, learning about the tools, software, and systems within your organization. Obviously, some of these may be different ones that you've used previously or even in your previous job. Some you may need to learn again, you may need to upskill, but familiarizing yourself with tools and system is a good step in onboarding yourself in the organization. And that includes learning what their communication platforms are. So it might be email, it might be WhatsApp, it might be phone calls, it might be the office notice board, right? So it might be project management tools or document sharing platforms. So are they using Google Drive or OneDrive to share documents across, different platforms, and any other software that might be relevant to your role. If you've listened to my other podcast, you would know that this next step in onboarding yourself is typically me, which is setting goals and objectives. I like to set goals and objectives, whether they're short term and long term. I'm constantly doing that and revamping and upgrading and editing the goals and objectives. But some of them really do remain the same in terms of long term goals, because this helps you to stay organized in the same way that it helps me and has helped me to stay organized. So you set those short term and long term goals and objectives. And you can even discuss them with your head, discuss them with your supervisor, and it all comes back to actively seeking feedback and receiving feedback on these. You can also establish a system to keep track of the important information, deadlines, and tasks. So you use whatever app that you need to do, or you go old school and you write it down on a calendar. You may have a good memory and remember some of these things. So whatever works for you, make sure you have a system to keep track of those important deadlines, tasks, and goals. Even if you need to use a digital calendar or even a physical calendar or planner. Make sure you find a mentor. Every successful person has told you and will tell you that they have found a mentor in some way or the other. Even if the person don't know that they were people's mentors, sometimes people would listen to, for example, a podcast, they would read books, to find out how people were able to achieve their success or were able to navigate in their profession. You need to find yourself a mentor, someone who can offer valuable insights and knowledge and perspectives based on their own experiences. They should be able to help you to navigate those challenges and those goals. And in the long run, you will see that it really helped you to develop professionally or even personally, because when you have adapted and when you have taken on the advice of your mentor, you find that you begin to develop not just professionally, but personally as well. And thus far, these are some of the steps that I have taken to onboard myself, ones that I have found work for me previously in my career and in my life, and some new ones that I have been playing around with as well, especially particularly the finding a mentor, because now you may have your mentor already established in your previous workplace, and they may be able to remain your mentor as you move, but it is also good to look out for one that you may find in the workplace that you are now employed in, because they would be more familiar with some of the things taking place in the workplace. So these tips will certainly help you settle in there, but I'm not going to ignore, and I don't want you to think that there aren't going to be challenges. One of the biggest challenges in onboarding yourself is definitely going to be the overwhelming influx of new information and new faces and processes to learn. So don't be daunted when at the end of the day, some things fall through the cracks. Hopefully you'd have identified a mentor by now, and hopefully have administrators who emphasize asking questions. And this is another place that I want to stop and put a pin in things for you to think about. Another challenge may just be the administrators, because not all administrators may be conducive to or open to receiving, giving feedback or taking comments or suggestions, because it might all depend on the type of leadership within the organization that you have to navigate, right? So sometimes you move from one place to another, and where there were pluses, there are, negatives in the other workplace, and vice versa. So you may be tempted to engage in the same practices that you had in your previous place of employment when you are onboarding in a new organization. But this comes back to the steps that I just went through with you. You want to be able to learn the organization's culture and research the institution so that you don't fall into these pitfalls. You want to connect with the managers or your head. You want to build your network and seek feedback. You want to familiarize yourself with the tools and systems, set those goals and objectives, and always turn to your mentor when you think that you may be going off track, right? Very important for you to consider in all of this, because it's all a very hectic and sometimes overwhelming process, is that you have to recognize and maintain your own needs. Don't ignore your needs as you navigate the process, because as we know, a symptom of I think I spoke about it in my previous podcast in quiet quitting, burnout is a symptom of that. And if you get overwhelmed and you don't take care of your own needs, you're going to burn out. So you need to prioritize your self-care while staying curious and adaptable, while being solution-oriented. So yes, you are allowed a little leeway in the onboarding process. Of course, the first few days, you're going to be overwhelmed. I think you have the mental fortitude to not burn out in a few days in a new challenging situation. But in the long run, you must make yourself self-aware that you need to consciously take care of your needs and stay curious and adaptable. These traits will become essential in ensuring that you settle in comfortably and you complete a successful onboarding process. Thanks for listening, and remember, you empower minds and you ignite curiosity. You have been listening to Lana the Educator. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.